Hello everyone and welcome, it's Eclectic Kelpie, and this is Adult Color Glasses, the show where I rewatch media from my childhood satirically and sincerely, and today we are going to be watching an episode of the Aladdin animated series. Now, Disney really popped off with their animated spin-off series, so Aladdin, A+. Little Mermaid, fantastic. Hercules, the best one, honestly. But obviously that's a preference, and Hercules is one of my top favorites ever. But the Aladdin one goes really hard. I remember two episodes really distinctly was The Garden of Evil and Elementary, My Dear Jasmine. So The Garden of Evil is the one where actually also the one we're watching today. And then the Elementary, My Dear Jasmine is the one with the mermaid. So it was super, super difficult to pick which one I wanted to watch today because I have such distinct memories of both of those ones. I don't know if I remember the overarching, because there was 3 seasons of the Aladdin animated series, so it did the best out of the 3, certainly in terms of numbers and episodes and content. But I don't remember the general story of the series, I feel, or if it was just like episodic things and every single episode was just like a villain of the day kind of a situation. I don't remember, but it was so hard to pick if I wanted to watch The Garden of Evil or Elementary, My Dear Jasmine. So actually, the first time in this series, we are going to be watching 2 episodes. We're doing a part 1 and part 2. So today we're going to be watching The Garden of Evil, and then next week we are going to be watching Elementary, My Dear Jasmine. I literally could not decide because I have such fond, distinct memories of both of them. And I really need to dive back into this treasure trove of fantastical media because truly it was so good. I feel like I remember having The Garden of Evil on VHS, and I must have also had My Dear Jasmine on VHS because those were like the best 2. Honestly, and I vividly remember them. I don't remember all of the little details, but certainly the mermaid one has been popping off again on TikTok. Like, I've been seeing little clips and I'm like, oh my god, I literally loved this so much because I love mermaids. Love the fantastical. But yeah, so we are going to be doing a part 1, part 2. Today we're going to be watching The Garden of Evil. I am stoked. I feel like we'll get into it, but I have such memories of this that are like, oh, the book talk girlies are gonna get it. But then also it's like, I don't know, is the message still gonna hold up? Because Jasmine really is all about the like, nobody owns me, I don't need a man to complete me, I'm not an object, I'm not a possession, it's not about like having me just there, it's about a proper relationship dynamic. So yeah, I really hope this still holds up because yeah, just the fondest memories. I'm really excited to watch this, honestly. And I don't know, the anticipation for it is that I'm gonna want to watch more episodes of this show outside of Adult Colored Glasses, because most of the time, I'm gonna say 90% of the time after I've watched an episode, it's done. And I don't ever continue watching anything after the cameras go off. I think it's only been a couple. Like, I watched a couple more episodes of Clash of the Titans, and obviously I still I watch Pokemon sometimes. Like, I'll watch Pokemon on and off, so yeah. But like most things I just let go, but I feel like I'm gonna want to watch more of this because it just, I don't know, man, the Disney magic, it really pops off. so I'm really stoked to dive into this one. It's gonna be a good day. But without further ado, let's dive into Aladdin, the animated series, episode 8, The Garden of Evil. This is gonna be a nostalgia flashbacks. Things are just gonna like into my head and like click, and the memories are just gonna like, this is the magic, the wonder. Oh my god. And it's fun. The theme song so far is 50-50 because it's giving the intro to the movie. Like it has that same rhythmic open. Some of the words are the same, but the singer is different, and it's a little bit more pingy sound, if that makes sense. Like the vocals is a little bit more like higher pitched and pingy sounds. Like there's a little bit of nasal component to it, whereas the other one, I feel like in the movie, was a little bit more like chest voice grounded and sat like within diaphragmatic breathing kind of range, where this one feels like, yeah, a little bit more like head pingy. So I don't like it as much. But still classic. Still love the energy. I feel like also just like super fast, get it out of the way, and then we won't talk about it ever again. Obviously, well, unless something egregious happens, then we'll have to talk about it. But the animation is obviously gonna not be as good because they didn't have as big of a budget, and it's a TV series versus a movie. So yeah, it's a whole different thing. I feel like there's gonna be some janky animation components. I'm just gonna kind of like let it go and be in the moment and enjoy the story and enjoy the experience as much as possible. But unless it's something like really awful and funny. But otherwise, they did amazing with the budget and the timing and the everything that they had. So, letting it go. But, yeah, certainly the quality is a little bit different. I know that we all love the blue outfit. Some of us also enjoy the red outfit. I love this purple outfit. I think it's so cute. I feel like it's more like dressy also. It's giving a little bit more like it's just giving a little bit more, if that makes sense. It's not so much simplistic. Like there's just a little bit more going on. There's a little bit more like texture. There's a little bit more decoration to it as well. I like the purple. I just think it's so nice. So yes, roll credits. Amazing. I'm so excited. This is gonna be so good. I also feel like in the canon this has to be between the first and second, because I feel like the first, or this, certainly after the first, the second movie probably happens within this time of the series. Honestly, the second movie, like Return of Jafar, could be one of these episodes, I feel. And then the King of Thieves is like the conclusion of the series. I think that that's how it was. And I love that, actually. Wow, Aladdin got such good special treatment, or I guess not like special treatment, because it is warranted. Like, it is a fantastic story. The characters obviously are amazing. Also, I know it's been a while, but like still RIP to Robin Williams. Like, what a king. What an absolute legend. Just magnificent. And I know that he's not the genie in the series. I think the same person who voiced Genie in Return of Jafar was the same person who voiced Genie in the series, and I think, again, that goes into like how the timeline worked. But it was really cool that Robin Williams came back for the King of Thieves and did the conclusion of the Aladdin story, which was really cool. But like, yeah. Yeah, R.I.P. I had a flash. I don't know if this is true, but I think that it would be insanely cool if these episodes were taken inspiration from the like 101 Nights, like all of those short stories. Like there's like the book is the full book of stories, so wouldn't it be so cool if they like took inspiration from each of those stories? Because that would be so cool. That would be such a smart thing. And also, that's working smarter, not harder, because you're taking inspiration, because it's already a whole thing, because Aladdin is already a story within the 101 Nights. So it just works, but that would be really cool. But yes, we're starting off with the dream sequence. It's all very mystical. You can tell because the edges of the screen are a little bit misty and distorted and dreamlike. That's crazy that that's the Sultan. This is giving Beauty and the Beast a little bit, actually. Because it's kind of like the dad going into the garden, like the OG Beauty and the Beast story, not like Beauty and the Beast Disney, because the original Beauty, well, there's been a bunch of iterations, but one of the iterations of the Beauty and the Beast story is that Belle had two sisters, and then when her dad was going off on a business trip and he was like asking all of his daughters, like, what would you like me to bring home for you? Like, I'm gonna bring you all home a gift. And his other two daughters asked for like clothes and jewelry and whatever, that kind of thing. And then Belle was just like, I just want a rose. I just want a nice rose from wherever you go, and I want you to bring it back and then just come home safe. Bring me a nice flower from your adventure. That's it. And so it's giving, like, obviously that's not the Sultan's intention right now, but it's giving a little bit of that, like, energy, right? Because we have this, like, looming figure who's observing, who's it's kind of ominous and threatening, and then the Sultan is like, I'm gonna go get a flower. I'm in this beautiful garden. I'm gonna go and pillage and take something from my child. But obviously that's not actually what's happening. But it's kind of just the way that the angle is going and the aesthetic right now, it's giving that. And I just really like that. I really like the energy and the art that is being utilized and depicted here. I want to go to an enchanted garden. Oh no, I don't want to be lured to the spring court. I just want something beautiful and whimsical. I want a pretty garden harp that's grown from the ground and has turned gold. Why not? A harp is better than a fiddle, certainly, right? Right? There's so many things about this episode, from my recollection, in terms of what the messaging is. There's a lot of, well, we'll get there when we get there, but, like, there's a lot of, again, like, Jasmine having autonomy over her body and herself. There's a lot of, like, you can't own me as a person messaging, and we love that. We love to see it. That's fantastic, especially in the climate that we are in. But also this strong association with, like, humans having impact on the world and having impact on nature in a negative capacity. Like, why is he taking the flower? He doesn't need to. He's just taking it for it to die, and for, like, you know, like, from the perspective of nature, he's unnecessarily killing something. But from his perspective, he's getting to experience joy from this piece of life. So it's, yeah. I feel like it's going to be a lot of complex commentary on this. Yeah, particularly around, like, women's autonomy, and also around nature and how people interact with the world that we are in right now, and how that works in terms of, like, because it's kind of a little bit deep like that, right? Because people are part of nature. A lot of the time, I mean, we live in these concrete boxes, right? We work in concrete boxes for the most part. So we are a part of nature, but we have so distinctly and deliberately separated ourselves from recognizing that we actually are a part of nature. And so, like, how much intervention from us is a part of nature versus going against what is just natural in terms of the world's operations. Like, is picking a flower that serious because a person is picking it and going to enjoy it? Or is it unnecessary destruction of just a growing thing? So, yeah. It could go either way. There's arguments for both of those things. Is it okay that he's picking the flower versus is it unnecessary destruction of the environment? I don't know. But children's media back in the day, they really did a lot. They were doing a lot. In the best way, they were doing so much. A treat. Loved it. I like this though, because hold on, the tree burst from the ground, and after he pulled the flower, there was a scream, like the flower felt pain. And if we equate all living things to being a part of living things, is that, like, killing a plant, is that harmful? Like, I know I'm verging very, very on the line of the, like, like vegan debate and like that kind of thing, but like it's not intended to be that. It's just to be thought provoking. It's just I am thinking that deeply, and so I'm putting it out there to be thinking that deeply, because we're sharing this experience right now, we're watching this together right now, so we're all thinking. And I am not a vegan, so like there's no judgment on that. Either way, like, do whatever suits you best and what feels right for you. But, like, it is kind of, like, this particularly right now, depicting a commentary on, are plants just as feeling and experiencing of pain as people? And, like, where is the line of life? Because obviously there is a circle of life. We need to take from the earth to sustain us, to then, but the cycle gets messed up when we don't give back to the earth. So if we're taking something, we have to replenish it, or let it replenish itself, and not doing excess consumerism in any regard. Whatever that consumption is, we can't do anything in excess because it's just harmful. But yeah, like, is pulling the flower actually, like, harmful? Is the flower actually a flower, or is it supposed to be something else? I feel like it's that deep. And I'm already loving it, and we're, like, barely into the episode, but it just feels like there's so much to extrapolate if you watch things from the lens of trying to understand it from a perspective that isn't just, I'm watching a show and I'm enjoying it. Like, there's so much to experience within watching pieces of media. So, yeah. Is the flower the flower? Is the cake even real? Who could say? The flower's not a flower. Bestie stole a flower, performing violence. This tree creature is being like, hey, you came in here, took something that didn't belong to you. This precious thing is, you've now killed it. And the Sultan pulls a knife. If you make bad choices, you'll get unfortunate consequences. What are you gonna do? But also, I don't think the flower was really a flower. I don't think it was really about the flower. What a crazy, this is like deal with the devil kind of thing. Because, I mean, there's a lot of unsaid, like, this is when you're doing deals with a fey creature, which is clearly this kind of a situation right here. This is like, it's a nature spirit, right? Or a fey creature kind of thing. And you have to be very particular about your wording, because if you say my greatest treasure, and people shouldn't be considered objects, that shouldn't be your greatest treasure, like, because obviously that's possession, ownership, rather than like mutual expressions of love, consideration, and consensual relationship building. So like but that's, I would say, good on the Sultan for not thinking about it in terms of like, oh, he's gonna take my kid, like that's my most precious possession, because he's not thinking about, oh, he's gonna take my kid, like that's my most precious possession. But this shady bitch, he's like, oh, what's most precious in your heart? Your child? Okay, that's your possession. Okay. Shame. I wonder also, actually, side note, how did the Sultan learn about this, like, special garden? Because it was kind of just like a desert oasis out in the middle of nowhere, right? So either he was out in the middle of nowhere for no reason, or he learned about this magical garden place and then was like, oh, I want to go check it out because, yes, of course, same. I would too. That sounds great. But, like, I kind of want to know this, like, backstory also. Tell me the cultivation of this knowledge. So maybe then I can replicate it and go on an adventure to a magical garden. We'll see. If I never come back again, you'll know where I went. I think the original voice actor of Aladdin continued to voice Aladdin because it sounds exactly the same. He sounds the exact same, so that would be really cool. I enjoy that. I enjoy continuity. We love to see it. Same thing with Gilbert Gottfried, actually. Iago sounds very similar to. Also, R.I.P. Gilbert Gottfried. I mean, pay your debts, I guess? Like, I don't know. If it was like 1-for-1, because at least in Mythos, fae creatures, at least, okay, specifically in Scottish Mythos, fae creatures will not take more than they're owed. They might be like, you know, kind of smart workaround of things, like exactly this. Like, Jasmine is his greatest treasure, even though she's not actually a treasure. Well, she is in her own way, but she is not an object. So, anyways. But, like, it's a 1-for-1, right? So, Arbutus, the tree guy, is not going to take the entirety of his fortune. He's just going to take the one thing that's equivalent to his greatest treasure, right? So, just pay your debt. Like, you had 20 years. You picked his you stole his belongings. You killed something that belonged to him. And that's kind of, oh my god, that's kind of the equivalent of killing his, like, pet. Right? Because Arbutus sees, like, plant life as life. Like, there's just no distinction. And he values plant life over human life. So, clearly there's, like, a value discrepancy there. But, digressing, just give him the one thing. Like, pay your debt, move on. It's not that deep. If you did that, then I don't know. It just shouldn't be that deep. Obviously, we wouldn't have the episode if that was the case. Or it could have been it could have been a differently interesting episode if that was the case. But, like, pay your debt. It's giving Cave of Wonders. I love it. Why are only these 5 protecting the treasury when the Sultan has copious guards? And if they're really that worried about it, like, this is the thing. The Sultan is, like, that worried about it. So why then would he have only, like, 5 untrained people who are not part of his palace guard protecting the treasury? Like, why wouldn't he have trained professionals do the job that he supposedly, maybe, pays them to do? And that would be more efficient, and they would have done, like, the sleep rotation, because I'm sure that they would have a schedule for that, because there has to be nighttime guards and daytime guards, so, like, that's just being irresponsible. That's just not utilizing the assets that you have at your disposal. That's also just pay the damn debt and be done with it. Like, it's not that deep. Well, it is that deep because Jasmine becomes the price of the debt, but aside from that, in this capacity feels a little bit questionable choices. But the Sultan is kind of dumb, isn't he? Yeah, so, checks out. Again, utilize the things at your disposal. If you know that you have, like, let's be, like, really stingy with it and say he has 100 guards, right? 50 of those guards would be daytime guards, and 50 of those guards would be nighttime guards, and they would do their sleeping during the... That's just logic. That's just basic rotation. That's just, like, also, like, basic D&D shifts, you know? When you're, like, party is sleeping in the woods, and then you're like, oh, like, the high elf can do trance and do like 4 hours, and then so if somebody delays their sleep for 4 hours, then the other people will pick up the slack and like do the like 8 hours of like it's fine, it's okay, and then they can sleep, and then it works. So like shifts, you don't all have to be awake. You can wake people up. Just one person has to be awake every 2 hours. I don't know. They didn't think this through. They weren't prepared. And this is why. This is the creepiest thing ever, because when you're asleep, you're at your most vulnerable, right? And so like a leaf touching you, like I'd be like, oh my god, a spider is on me. Like I feel like I would wake up and be like, the f***. So I don't know. She's a very heavy sleeper, and this is like horror, actual horror. Oh my gosh, like how cool he is. That's such a cool design, because he's kind of like naturalistic. Like he does have naturalistic like components to him, like the thorns and like the plumage I feel like is like dandelion like fluff as his headpiece, and then like he's all made out of wood. It looked like this is such a cool design. I'm really here for it. And like there's a little bit of creepiness to him because he has like the fangs, like the teeth are like elongated and like sharp, and like his proportions are a little bit wonky, so it's kind of, like his fingers are really long, and so he looks off, but like he looks so cool. Like this is fantastic, like creature creation. Yeah, I mean, you know what, I'll give the Sultan like 2 points for letting it click, but it's also just so like, Jasmine's not a possession, like please. But it's good that it clicked, and then now they're like, oh okay, we're gonna go save her. That's great. Although I mean, if I was ever in a situation where I was gonna get taken away to a cool fae realm and get to live in a cool fae garden paradise situation, maybe just let me go. Maybe just you never see me again. Maybe it's okay. I don't know. Hang out with the cool monster guy. Why not? The book talk girlies get it. Oh, it's so visceral, man. It feels so visceral that every time Aladdin is cutting one of the vines and they're dying, you hear a scream. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of sympathy for this character. I remember this episode quite well. Like this is very like, I don't know, I stored it in my brain. I must have watched this particular VHS tape like so many times because it's there, like vividly there. And just like, you can't not have so much sympathy for this plant guy, because it's literally like they're screaming, they're dying. Aladdin is murdering plants. they're all like they're animated to be sentient and to be like conscious and to feel, regardless if that's like independently from Arbutus or if that is an extension of Arbutus and he can feel the pain physically. Either way, the plants are experiencing physical pain, physical trauma, and that's crazy. And to be like, oh, like Aladdin is right, like, oh, he's gonna go save Jasmine, oh, he's like just hacking up some like greenery. No, he's like killing plants and they're screaming, and it's so very like, it feels very visceral and impacting because of that like humanization component of these plants. Like they're literally screaming and crying and dying. It's kind of bad. I also really like his voice. I love a good villain. I'm obsessed with the villains always. 90% of the time I like the villain. Especially in Disney. The villains are always way better than the protagonists, and they're always way more fun. They're just peak. And he's giving like, he's kind of giving a Scar. Like, I'm flattered you remember me. Like, okay, cool. Whatever. Like, very, yeah. It's giving Scar a little bit. Like, the sarcastic and like high postured, like, yes, I know my power and I'm sitting in it. So yes, I am obsessed. Yes, indeed. Also very cool or transportation mechanisms and techniques is like vines going through, because like, I mean, if you think about like mushrooms, for example, mushrooms have like networks of connections in forests and stuff. Like there's like a huge thing. So like a plant, theoretically, this makes sense using that logic, is like if a plant connects everywhere and you can like send like spores or messages or whatever, like you could theoretically vine transport your way anywhere. And that's really cool. And I like it. Cool magic. Like, look at how cool. Look at it. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. What a king. See? He's literally the coolest. He's like, oh my gosh, hold on. I do have to incapacitate you. That's just, you know, non-negotiable. We're gonna have to... This situation's just not working for me, but hold on, because I gotta make it pretty. Hold on, I gotta make it aesthetic. I gotta add the flowers. Like, just wait a moment. And he does it in the most dramatic flourish of... I'm literally obsessed. I would go and hang out with this man in a forest. We would sip tea out of little, like, tulip teacups, and we would chill in a magical forest, and the harp would play magically by itself, and that would be fantastic. Yeah, if I get kidnapped by a cool magical fey creature and get taken to a magical foresty location, like, just, I'm good. Don't worry about it. He's also so pretentious. He's like, we all must suffer for our art. Okay, maybe I'd get tired of him. Maybe I would but you know what? The garden's big. We can have separate situations over there. I can enjoy the magical garden separately, and we'll just hang out every once in a while when I want to be entertained with the sassiness and the sassiness and the vibes. It's called balance. You're telling me that you wouldn't want to live there in that beautiful tree house? Literally, it's a carved out little tree house situation. You're telling me that wouldn't be a desirable existence in this year of 2026? To be sequestered in a beautiful oasis in a magical garden? You never see me again. Yeah, see, hold on. You know, this is not it for me. The, like, you're gonna be my centerpiece. Like, you know, not seeing a person as a person and seeing them as an object, we're not here for it. So this is where I'm sorry, he's lost me. I was there. I was prepared. I was like, yes, king, like we're good to go. Let's enjoy the beauty of nature. That's great. We're gonna have we have some discourse and disconnect here now. We have some problems. Because, you know, like, you can't view somebody as a possession. You can't view a person, especially in these times, having it be Jasmine, having it be a woman who's being, like, physically manipulated at this time, like, physically manipulated to submit to this person. You lost me. I'm gone now. But yeah, this is really unfortunate. And it's the perception of entitlement to her and her body and her being. And I feel like that's you just can't. There's nothing to that. Like, you just can't. I also feel like because her father was the one who made that deal, it shouldn't be transmitted to her in terms of her being the one who suffers for this deal. Like, I feel that because her father was the one who caused the problem, then he should have had 20 years. Okay, fine, you can pop off, go away, and, like, you know, do your thing, but then you gotta come back 20 years later and pay your debt for this flower in whatever capacity that Arbutus wanted, because that was, you know, whatever. The Sultan can be a centerpiece of the garden if that's what he wants, because that was the deal between the Sultan and Arbutus. However, you can't, there's just so many components that are not okay with this. You cannot sell your daughter And I don't think that the Sultan was intentionally trying to sell his daughter. I don't think that that's the case here. But the problem is that he did sell his daughter, and you just can't do that. You just can't. It's not how it works. She is an autonomous being. She has the right to own her own self and her own body and her own mind and her own space. This is not it. This is problematic. There's no way around it that this is problematic behavior. The only asterisk caveat is that if this was intentional, this is book talk. If this was consensual behavior between the two of them and she was actually an adult, this is book talk. And I wouldn't be mad at it. But in the context, firm cut, in this context, this is unacceptable. There's no part of this that is acceptable. I think that's really cool because he's a tree. He's a real tree and she thinks he's a tree because he's a tree. And that's just fun. But, like, also, girl, use your eyes. You're literally, like, come on. I also love Jasmine because she is such a fighter. What a strong, fantastic, independent woman to be a role model for kids in the 90s and early 2000s. Like, just so self-assured and so, like, consistent and continuous with her boundaries. She's like, no, I'm done. No, I'm done. No, I'm done. And it just doesn't matter, like, what he's doing. Like, in the sense that she's gonna still not concede herself and her understanding of her own autonomy. Like, her sense of self-efficacy is fantastic. And what a beautiful representation of a woman holding her own power. Yeah, obviously, like, he's still physically manipulating her in this moment, but she is still holding her own. She is still holding her own self. And, like, the defiance, the rebellion, the I'm going to not stop fighting because I know my worth and I know my rights. Love it. Love to see it. Who radicalized you? Literally this. You know, both of them are wrong. One is both of them are wrong. I was gonna say one is certainly more wrong than the other. And in terms of the harming another person, that is worse than what Aladdin's doing. But both of them are wrong in the sense of, like, Aladdin and the Sultan are negatively impacting the world, and they are kind of doing the same thing, essentially. We just perceive it differently because it's, here's like a flower, this life is not the same kind of life as a human life. And so we value that differently, and we put different worth on human life versus plant life. And I think, like, obviously we have to. Like, obviously, if you have to kill a flower versus killing a human, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. But I think that what is super interesting here is that it is the same thing. And they're being equated in the same, like, they're being weighed in the same way. They're being weighed to be equal in the same, like, one perspective versus another perspective, but they're weighed the same. Their worth is the same. Jasmine is just as valuable as that one flower was. And I think that that's not being, like, facetious or, like, over reactive in terms of, like, the perspective. It's being very genuine with those perspectives. It's not being sort of, like, I can't think of the right word right now, but it's not being like, oh, like, if you think this, then I'm just gonna assert this to be contrarian about it. Like, I think that Arbutus, like, genuinely feels that his flower that the Sultan plucked is the same in terms of the life value of Jasmine. And I think that that's just his genuine perspective. And so it's very interesting to look at it from that perspective of Aladdin is just as wrong because he's still taking life, and he's still not placing the same value and worth on nature and nature's life in the same way that Arbutus is not putting value onto human life. It's weighed, like, differently, but they are the same in terms of how this is handling the weight of life and, like, how you can say that a flower and Jasmine are equal because the perspective of life is the same. the life is life. It's not human or plant, it's life. So both Aladdin and Arbutus, from that lens, are horrible villains, because Aladdin's chopping up things and killing plants left and right. So he's doing like mass plant murder. And then same thing with like Arbutus is obviously like harming Jasmine in the sense of like not allowing her autonomy, keeping her captive. Like this is a kid's show. He's obviously not going to do anything more than what he's doing right now. But it is still harm. And so like seeing that both of them are really awful people. Both of them are really bad and villains to each other. And that's such a interesting way to look at this piece of media as well, because there's always going to be a villain and there's always going to be a hero, and it's always going to be based on perspective. It's always going to be, which side do you personally see as correct, as the truth, as aligning with your own values, expectations, and narrative of the world. So both of them are right, and both of them are the villain in each other's stories and lenses. And I think that that's really interesting and a very complex thing to utilize in this kid show. But yeah, I think that's really, really intense and pretty cool. Oh man, and like he breaks the harp, and the harp screams and cries, and he just doesn't even care, and he's just killed the harp. So like it really is just like life. And that's why I think that Arbutus is a fantastic villain in this episode, because there's so much sympathy for him, because they're literally screaming and crying. These plants are screaming and crying as they're dying, and it's so visceral. Like I had mentioned already, like you feel it. And so I think that like, yeah, it's a fantastic dichotomy of perspectives and of articulating different values in terms of life as a whole. Yeah. It's crazy. But like, it's just, oh man, we need to also care about nature more. Genuinely. We need to have so much more f***s to give about the world and about plants. Obviously, don't equate like human murder to like picking one flower, but like we need to care more about the world we live in. Love this monologue. Love his articulation of how, like, his perspective of how people view the world based on their actions and how they treat his world. And it's so perfect, and that's why he's such a good sympathetic villain. Like, he's so good, because literally he's saying like, what Jasmine is saying, you can't treat me like a thing, you can't treat me like one of your flowers that you can just keep in a garden. Like, I have needs and I have, you know, wants and desires. And he's saying like, yes, okay, but then people can go and pluck my flowers, put them in a vase, and have them slowly die, and treat them like things, and utilize my other creations to burn them, to, like, you know, create smoke for fires for warmth, and then you're blocking out the sun and all of these different harmful things to my environment. So if you're going to treat my creations like things, why should I treat humans any different than how, like, it's a give and take of the same thing. And that's why I think that it's such a fantastic and cool exploration of this perspective of having plant life and human life is the same. It's weighed the same. It's showing the two perspectives of those things being in balance, of equal worth. And they are an equal worth, essentially. Like, the world, like, everything needs to be in balance for us to actually properly live. And having a more naturalistic perspective of living, I think, is important, because, you know, we're so on the opposite end of the spectrum now, where, again, like, we're in concrete boxes and we're sequestered away in our little, like, gray sections of the world, and it just isn't good for anybody. But, like, yeah, like, having that proper, like, give and take relationship with nature and that, like, balance, it's just highlighting that, and then also showing, like, the weight of nature and people and what the harmony of that could be. and isn't really now at this time, at least not in North America. Certainly not in North America. But yeah, no, I really liked that monologue. It's very enlightening into, here's a totally different way to perceive the world. Here's a totally different perspective. And it's the same, and he's mirroring what she's saying because it's equal, it's equivalent. Yeah, I love this. This is the problem, is that she's literally saying, sit down, children, we're gonna use our words, we're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna come to a healthy solution that's mutually beneficial for all parties. But Aladdin's like, nah, I got this. I'm gonna go swinging with my sword, and I'm gonna kill everything, and I'm gonna tear them apart leaf by leaf, like, okay. And then Arbutus is like, obviously he's like thousands of years old, and he's jaded, and he's like, or I'm guessing that he's thousands of years old. But if he's like the spirit of nature itself, then he would be old as the earth is, right? So he's like, okay, I'm just gonna start beating up this kid also. Listen to the woman. She knows. She's heard the perspectives. She's listening. She gets it. Just let her cook. Let her take the lead. Listen. Use your ears. Sit down. Calm. Breathe. Relax. Go to therapy. And most importantly, listen to the woman. She knows, and she's trying to de-escalate the situation. Like, this is not helpful. This is not healthy. This is not getting anywhere other than just war. Okay, what are you gonna do? Yeah, literally, she's like, f*** off, Dad. Like, nobody's listening to me. Y'all are way too hot-headed, way too emotional right now. You're not using your logic. I'm trying to get us to do a talking circle where we can all just sort this out and then go home and be happy. And, like, it doesn't have to be that deep. But it is that deep. Everything, this episode is that deep, to be honest. And it's like, just listen to Jasmine. Just, like, chill and listen. And sit down and use your words. Moral of the story, use your words. They killed him. That's pretty dark. That's pretty scary. That's pretty horrific. Look at him, he's decaying. He's melting and he's decaying. He's like, ooh, organic plant material and turning into mold and gross. Ooh, I don't like it. And Aladdin's happy about it? Oh my god, look at this man. He just killed someone. And then he's happy about it. Sir. I know that he has a past, but what kind of past does he have that he's okay with this? Don't placate him. Don't be like, oh, Aladdin, I know you meant to do the right thing. You're trying to do something nice with your heart. No. You were like, bro, stop, listen, hold on, sit down, let's chat. And he was like, nah, I have a sword, f*** you, I don't give a shit. No. That's questionable behavior. Especially in a relationship, like, if he's not listening, questionable. This messaging, so she's saying, sometimes on the outside we see what is different, and I guess like the bottom line message is like love is love, and like Arbutus's love of nature is like the equivalent of like you and the Sultan's love for me. So like if we looked at what brings us together and is the sameness is like love, then like we would all be okay and like harmony would join the world. And I love that messaging. But that's so, it's very, there was a lot. There was a lot going on here. Because there was so much. There was so much. And it's interesting that was the message that they landed on was, let's not look at our differences, let's look at our similarities. And if we always come from a place of love, then it's all good. Like, we'll always be good. And I agree with that. 100% I agree with that. Like, again, I've said a couple of times in different episodes, but like this mentality around othering and looking for things to separate us based on like gender or sexuality or race or ethnicity or like anything that is not just like be a good person or here's like some unfortunate personality types or behaviors or individuals. Because obviously you don't have to like everyone, but it should just be about like the personal attributes of that individual rather than having prejudices. And people just we are ingrained to see differences and to be like, oh, that person is incorrect or wrong because they believe this or they are like this or they look like this. And I don't vibe with that. I think it's dumb, and I think that it's very indicative of low intelligence if you don't like somebody just based on something that is not about a personality attribute. You know, you can't not like somebody based on what they look like or something that they can't control. But you can not like somebody based on an individual attribute. But like, yeah. It's weird how we like landed on that, but I love that messaging. But there were so many ways that this could go. But yeah. I'll take it. Stop othering. Enjoy people for just being people. And you don't have to like everybody, but don't hate everybody just because they are a part of a particular group of people. Because then that shows your lack of intelligence. If that is, like, prejudice is indicative of a lack of intelligence. It just is. So, yeah. Togetherness, balance, nature, harmony, listen to women, and everything with love. Which, I've been saying it for almost a year now. I wonder if Arbutus is... But this would be crazy. If Arbutus regrew himself because that flower was his, like, life source, his heart, his, like... Because I was, like, just thinking right now separately to myself, that's pretty sad that they killed him. Like, that's kind of crazy. And obviously he's not going to be, like, a recurring character or a villain that comes back or, like, anything. But that's kind of wild that they kill him. But I was like, oh, that's so sad. That's such a crazy, awful ending that they just killed him. But this would be really cool if he regrows himself, because he is like the essence of nature, the essence of growth and the natural world and plants. So, I hope so. I have a headcanon that he regrows himself. He's like Groot. He can just, like, the flower is replanted. He's coming back. Especially because it came back to life so quickly. Questionable, but magic. I love it. All right. Oh, man, I love the theme song is so good. I love it. But yeah, that was Aladdin, the animated series, episode 8, The Garden of Evil. Oh my goodness. Wow. What do I got to say about that? That was absolutely amazing and fantastic. And so, it still holds up. Loved it so much. I remember that episode so well. There was very few individual scenes that I didn't actually, like, have a vivid recollection of. But that's okay. It was such a treat to rewatch this. I think it's got to have a 5 out of 5. Like, this particular episode, at least, 5 out of 5. We're definitely doing the part 2 because this was so good. And we're going to be watching the mermaid episode of Aladdin because I really want to. I really enjoyed it. So this certainly 5 out of 5. This was so good. I also think that the pacing was really fantastic. I think that everything was, like, clear. Like, the messaging was very clear in terms of valuing life and nature and all life being equal, essentially, like, not seeing people for, you know, their differences, but looking from, like, coming from a place of compassion and kindness and understanding and finding balance and harmony within the world. And, you know, like, yes, we still have needs in terms of utilizing nature, but giving back to it and contributing to the cycle rather than exploitation of resources or, you know, like, taking more than we actually need, not going into excess for consumeristic purposes. So yeah, it was that deep, and that was so good and so fun, and I loved it so much. I don't even think that the animation made a big difference. Like, yes, you can tell in the quality in terms of just some of the rendering, I guess. Like, just the quality is not the movie quality because it wasn't the same budget. It's fine. I didn't think it was very distracting. Like, it still held up so well in all of the points. Really enjoyed it. This was a treat. I'm very excited for part 2 to watch the mermaid episode because I think it's going to be so good. I think it's going to be so good too. I loved the sass. Arbutus was such a highlight. I really enjoyed him as a villain. I thought that he, like, no notes. Well, other than, I have one note. I have the note about creepy man. Don't do that. Don't hold women against their will. Unacceptable. But that's the only note. I think that he was so fun. I loved the sass. I loved the vibe, the energy. I loved the more quiet aspect of him because I feel like it's so easy for villains to be over the top and aggressive and violent. But Arbutus was so much more quiet and, like, yeah, just, like, held in his own without, like, needing to be overtly threatening. He just was a very effective villain, and I just really liked him. And it was fun to have that sympathetic villain because he wasn't doing anything in terms of equating life and life. He wasn't necessarily wrong. So yeah, being the sympathetic villain, it was crazy that they killed him. Crazy that they killed him. I feel like they thought that they could because he's more of a creature rather than a person. Even though I think that they humanized him so much that killing him was crazy. But yeah. If you enjoyed this episode, consider giving a like and subscribing to continue joining us on all of our adventures. But with that, everything with love, and we'll see you next time in the treasure trove. Bye.